Hello everyone, I have another cozy video for you today, so make sure that you get your tea, get snuggled in blankets, and let's go! So today I'm going to be painting another postcard like I did a couple of weeks ago in the style of Bob Ross, but I'm doing it in watercolor. Unfortunately, my camera was a little overexposed in this section here, but I do fix it eventually, so don't worry. I am also very heavily inspired by SKYRIM in this piece, so a lot of the reference photos I used for it were direct screen grabs from the game itself. So I thought I would use this video to talk a little bit about, well, ramble on a little bit about how games like that and other fantasy worlds like Lord of the Rings and such have created such an impact and inspiration for the art style that I have today. It's actually taken me quite some time to get used to painting landscapes. When I was first painting in acrylic, I was doing some landscapes, but it was very basic. Most of the time I would do a galaxy sky and then I would do a silhouette of the land, and I have kind of still got that style a little bit, but I have obviously refined it and put highlights on and all that kind of stuff. So perhaps one day I might go back to those acrylic pieces and paint over them and see how I go in acrylics. But for now, I will stick to the cute little watercolor postcard sized paintings that I'm doing here. So if you're familiar with my work, then you know that I typically do characters with some kind of galaxy background. Maybe I'll put some flowers in there, but I usually don't do fully fledged landscapes. One of the first ones that I did do was for my mum for Mother's Day, and it was the Argonath, the statues of the two kings from Lord of the Rings. And it was very detailed. It took me a very long time, but one of my goals for this year was to paint more landscapes, so I thought maybe doing the little postcard size ones might be a little bit of an easier thing to, I guess, get around in my head. It's not so overwhelming as a larger piece of what I did with the Argonath statues. While the landscapes in movies are quite pretty and I can draw a lot of inspiration from them, typically there aren't too many screen grabs that you can find on the internet, or they're only there for just a snippet of the movie and it's really impossible to try and capture that. So having games like Skyrim and even Hogwarts Legacy has some beautiful landscapes that you could just stand there and take your own photos of it, in a way, your own reference photos. So I really enjoy that aspect of those kinds of games because I can really slow down, really consider my surroundings and, to take everything in. And if I see something, I can think, oh, that would be a nice painting. And that's kind of what I did here, although I actually did have help with this one. I had some friends take photos of Skyrim when they were playing it. So I haven't actually played Skyrim in a while, but I absolutely love the game and it's very inspiring with all of those pretty galaxy colors in the sky when you're playing. I think it's beautiful. I think the only thing missing in this painting is a little dragon. I wish I had put one in there, but I thought maybe it would be a little bit too crowded with the trees that I add later on. Going off on a bit of a tangent here, but I think it's very fascinating how different people play the same game differently. For example, I like to consider everything, consider my surroundings, consider the flowers, and I like picking the flowers, I like catching things, I like doing all those slow things like the apothecary, and it's a fun time for me to be able to do that and less kind of combat or a less hands-on combat, because I like doing sneak and I like doing bows and arrows. Whereas I was watching my brother play Skyrim recently and he's chaotic. He plays with all of the markers on for several quests that he has going, and I cannot figure out how he does that. How does he know which marker he needs to go to? So let me know in the comment section below what kind of player you are. Do you like to have all of the markers on, or do you like to play slowly and just have one quest open at a time and consider all of your surroundings along the way? So this piece is coming along and it is reminding me a lot of how I used to do landscapes in acrylic. So I did mention before that I wasn't really a landscape artist in watercolor, but before I started watercolor, I was doing acrylic pieces and I was very heavily inspired by galaxies, and Harry Potter was a huge inspiration. I have a piece that I did in acrylic many years ago that has a glowy background with a stag in the middle to depict the Patronus, the stag. So maybe one day I might cover that over and redo it and see how I go now that I have different skills and now that I've been working in watercolor for so long. I think that it's an interesting progression to see that I have so much more detail because earlier it was just a galaxy with a silhouette. Like there was nothing really special, there was no real highlights, and I thought it was amazing when I was doing it back then. But nowadays I look at it and I think I could do this differently, I could do that differently. So maybe that's something I can do in the future here on my channel if you guys are interested to see, if you want to watch me cover up an old piece of artwork and completely repaint it. Talking about things that we could have done differently, this part of this little postcard I do wish that I'd done a little differently. I wish that I'd kept these trees out and just had the background that I did originally. It does kind of cover it up and I didn't consider that when I first painted these trees in. One of the reference photos I had did have a couple of trees and I just kind of moved them to the side like this, but I feel like it takes up a little bit too much of the sky that I originally did and those little trees in the background too. I know that in the words of Bob Ross, we don't have mistakes. No, we don't make mistakes, we have happy accidents. But I do think that it's a learning experience when we do have those happy accidents, I suppose. So next time I think I would have a little bit more space and not put those extra trees in. I'm still going to blame Bob though, because I had his voice in my head saying, we got to be brave, we got to make a decision, and I made a decision and I kind of wish that I didn't. As I said, like it doesn't make the painting bad or anything. It's just my little critique that I do whenever I make something, especially when I'm exploring something new like landscapes. I haven't done overly much of them in comparison to character designs. So it is helpful as an artist to not exactly be a huge critique of your work, but to see things that maybe you would do differently and learn things from every piece that you do. I know this mindset can be super hard to overcome, especially if you are very self-critical, and I can make a little bit of a video on that at some point in the future. I do have the Finding Your Art Style video that I do touch a little bit on that, but I think I'm gonna eventually make a video to help you overcome your self-criticism and help overcome art block as well. So look out for a video like that in the future. I absolutely love putting highlights on pieces like this. It just makes it all come together. It gives it a kind of snowy feel in this particular piece, snowy, like ethereal sort of landscape. One thing that I would like to expand on in the future with landscapes is playing around with contrasting colors as my highlights. So I have seen a lot of work that has a very teal blue as the main color, and then the highlights are this beautiful yellow, but that's not exactly my vibe. So I think I'm gonna have to have a look at color theory a little bit and figure out what my thing is, because whilst I do like this, I do like the nighttime with the very glowy, snowy vibe. I think I would love something that was very uniquely me, that you could see it and you think, yeah, that Galacticat did that, you know? I think we're always seeking that as artists, and I think exploring stuff like this and exploring color theory and exploring what you like and what you don't like is a really good way to figure out what your thing is. I don't know if that made any sense. I was just rambling on there, as I always do in these videos, but I feel like these are really good ways to kind of get my random thoughts out and have a chat to you guys while you can watch me do some artwork. So I do hope that you enjoy this type of format. I will keep doing them like this, but I'm really enjoying just kind of chatting to myself a little bit about the experiences that I had and the thoughts that I had while I was painting it. You guys are basically like my sounding board, like my journal. I'm writing in my art journal, thinking of all these thoughts out loud and recording them onto my videos. So thank you for listening. Thank you for sticking around. I do hope that these videos are useful to you, or calming to you at least. These paintings take me altogether about an hour and a half, so at some point I am probably going to upload the almost unedited versions of those. Of course, I will edit out the camera changes and any stoppages that I have, but just in case you wanted to hang out, I won't talk over it. It'll just be me painting with some pretty music, and I feel like that would be a good way to fill up that extra week that I usually have off. So if I can edit them all at the same time. Again, I'm just journaling here. I'm just talking out my thoughts and letting you know what goes through my head. So yeah, if you're interested in that, then make sure that you stick around and look out for those videos in the future. Now for some very unsatisfying tape peel. I don't know, I tried my hardest to get all of it to come off all in one piece so it'd be really satisfying to watch, but it didn't. It's still kind of satisfying to see the crisp edges though, so at least we have that. Anyway, I hope that you all had a fantastic time watching the video, or a cozy time at least. And until the next one, fare thee well, everyone. Bye.